Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and today we welcome back Michael Connelly. He is the Executive Director of the United States Justice Foundation. He's also a constitutional attorney and also a U.S. Army veteran. Michael, nice to have you back. How you doing, my friend?
Doing fine. Thank you for having me, Perry.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, listen, before we get into this VA thing, what's your take on how we are handling this Boston bomber as to whether or not he's being charged properly?
Well, he hasn't been charged yet with everything he should be charged with, but that's standard procedure. They file charges just on anything they can right at the beginning. Hopefully there are going to be multiple charges against him, and hopefully they'll be going for the death penalty. But, there's a lot of concerns out there about why this happened in the first place, why the FBI dropped the ball on the older brother, and why the brother was allowed to stay in the country when he should have been deported. This was part of the politically correct Obama approach to jihadists. You don't want to offend anybody. Well, that gets Americans killed.
Certainly does. Now he is being looked at or handled as a criminal and not as an enemy combatant. Is that correct in your thinking?
Well, it pretty much has to be correct because of the Constitution. The fact is that he is a naturalized American citizen, right, and as such, he's entitled to his constitutional rights. If he was not a naturalized citizen and they were not charging him as an enemy combatant, I'd be very upset. Is
there any problems now by being so long and giving him his Miranda rights?
Well, I think they have enough evidence against him without using anything he might have said. Eric Holder changed the situation with Miranda rights. The exception was originally to allow police to ask questions from somebody they just arrested about, like, where's your gun? Is there a victim? Where is the person? Are they hurt? And this sort of thing. And then Eric Holder says, well, we're going to extend that from a few minutes to 48 hours. So it's questionable whether anything they got from him can be used in court against him. But hopefully they got some kind of information they can use to find other terrorists and find out who his connections were to foreign nationals, which I think there were connections.
Well, there certainly be some ball dropping with the FBI and the State Department and having some kind of a background on this guy and not following through with it.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, somebody dropped the ball. They didn't even have the man's correct name in all the agencies. You had various agencies that had information about him. They were not sharing it with other agencies. They weren't talking to each other. This is exactly what the laws were that were changed after 9/11 were designed to do, to make sure that our agencies were talking to each other and sharing the information. Obviously, they didn't. And again, I think this goes to the political correctness approach of the Obama administration. They don't even want to call jihadists what they are. They're terrorists. We have the new director of CIA come out before he was made director and say, we don't want to refer to him as jihadist because jihad is a legitimate practice of the Muslim religion. Well, what's legitimate about killing an 8-year-old in Boston?
Yeah. All right. The other issue that is so alarming to us is what the VA is doing to block vets from owning guns. What's this case all about?
Well, we basically got involved in this about 2 months ago when I wrote an article for my blog because I had got some information on this. And after I wrote the article, it exploded. And in a nutshell, what we have is there's a program in the Veterans Administration, which has been around for a while, called a fiduciary program. And it's designed originally to help elderly veterans who might be suffering from dementia or severe memory loss who would forget to pay their bills on time. They wouldn't properly handle their VA payments. So the VA would appoint a fiduciary, usually a family member, or if no family member is available, somebody from the outside to take care of this for the veterans. Then in 2007, there was an amendment passed by Congress to the National Instant Background Check list that prohibits people from buying guns who are convicted felons or who are mentally ill and have been diagnosed as a danger to themselves or others. They wanted to make sure that veterans who were in that category got put on this list. And there are veterans out there who are that mentally ill. There's no question about that. But the VA, see, this is supposed to be adjudicated. And the VA decided that under this new law, adjudicated meant they could do whatever they want. So what they're doing is they are sending out letters to veterans, and I've got copies of these letters, saying basically, we have received information that you cannot handle your own affairs because of physical or mental disabilities. Now, physical, I guess, could mean loss of an arm or a leg or some kind of head injury. And Then the letter goes on to say that we will appoint a fiduciary to represent you, to handle your affairs. And then, by the way, once we rule you incompetent, you will not be able to own, possess, transport, or buy any firearms or ammunition. And if you do so, you will be subjected to criminal penalties, a felony. And veterans they're getting these letters or have minor PTSD, some of them. Some of them have gone in and said something to the VA like, well, yeah, I lost a buddy in Afghanistan. I'm depressed about it a little bit. Some of them have done nothing at all except say that, yeah, my spouse handles the checkbook. They're even going after the widows. We have a lady up in Virginia that we're going to be representing in one of these lawsuits. And basically, her husband was killed in Vietnam. She's been receiving payments. They asked her at the VA, how do you handle your bills? And she says, it's easy. Everything's automated. It all comes right out of my checkbook. They declared her incompetent. She cannot now purchase firearms. We're estimating 150,000 veterans, not estimated, we know about 150,000 veterans are on the list now of people who cannot buy firearms, and 99.9% of them do not belong. There's no adjudication process. The veterans have no due process of law under this. We're getting horror stories from all over the country, and they just keep growing. And then we asked the VA, through Freedom of Information Act request, to tell us what criteria they're using to declare veterans incompetent because they're not following the law, and what criteria they're using to put them on the background check list. They refused to respond to our request. We filed a lawsuit last week to force them to do so, and we're now working on several class action suits on behalf of veterans all over the country because it's just totally out of hand, and it seems to be a deliberate test target of veterans to see if they can be put on the background check list, denied their Second Amendment rights. And these are America's heroes. These are the people who fought for us to defend our rights that are now being denied.
Unbelievable. Now, has any veterans been charged with having a firearm when they've been told not to have one?
We haven't seen any of that yet, but we have seen situations where veterans have had their homes raided and their firearms confiscated. And in one case, somebody else, again, up in Virginia that we're going to be representing, they actually raided his home, and some doctor from the VA had called this man, and he got some kind of bizarre answering machine message, which the guy had actually left for a friend of his he knew would be calling. And so they had his home raided. He had no history of mental illness, no history of PTSD. His injuries were physical that the VA was treating him for. And they took him in for a psychiatric examination for 3 days, didn't hold him after that, found out he was okay, returned him to his home, but in the meantime, they will not return his weapons. So the confiscation part of it, that's starting to happen now.
So the VA is actually raiding homes? I mean, they're now a police agency?
Well, they have local police with them, but the VA does have their own police department. And, so they do handle things like this and can handle things like this, but they use the local authorities too. But the bottom line is this man, no constitutional rights, no due process, just take his weapons, keep his weapons, simply we think because he's a veteran who has weapons. And if you think about it, who are the most dangerous people to tyranny in this country, to defend us against tyranny, the strongest people? Yeah. That's the veterans. There are 21 million of us, and we all took an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution.
All right. So, first of all, any congressional response?
Well, there has been an attempt in Congress, because this has been going on for a while. This really accelerated during the Obama administration. Our timeline shows it really started happening to a great extent about 3 years ago. And last year in the Senate, there was an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act introduced that would have stopped this. And the White House opposed it, and the amendment was defeated. Now, Richard Burr, a senator from North Carolina, recently, within the last month, has filed a new bill called the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act, which is designed to stop this from happening. But again, the White House is opposing it. In the Senate, we're going to have the Democrats come out and oppose it for the most part. So the chances of it passing are slim and none. That's why at the Justice Foundation, we're prepared to file suits. And, of course, we do not charge these veterans for anything. They don't have to pay us any expenses or attorney's fees. We're looking for attorneys around the country to volunteer to help us or reduce it or work at reduced rates. and we're looking for people to donate to help us finance these lawsuits. So people can go to usjf.net to find out more about what we're doing and find out how they can help. We also need to hear from any veterans out there. We've heard from a lot, but any of you who are being affected by this, go to usjf.net, send an email to me, or leave a phone message. It may take a week or two to get back to you because we're being inundated, but we will talk to you, and if we can, we will represent you.
All right. Again, that's usjf.net is the website to get a hold of Michael's organization. And if you are a veteran and you've received this letter, let him know right away. And if you need representation, let him know right away. So, Michael, the short end of this, where is it going to go? What do you think will happen here?
Well, I think that ultimately we're going to prevail in court because I think, one, they're being denied their Second Amendment rights. Number two, this being done without due process of law. It may take a while to do this litigation because we're a class action suit. Those are time-consuming and very expensive, but we want to make sure that all the veterans in the country are protected. Because if we take a local lawsuit, file in one state, and you win in federal court, unless it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, it may not be applied in other states. And some of the states are doing things like this, too. We have one person up in Ohio we're representing who was denied a concealed weapons permit. He's a veteran, not because of, because at one point he had a social worker, not a psychiatrist, have one meeting with him to discuss PTSD. And for that reason alone, Ohio says you cannot have a concealed weapons permit. So it's coming into the states now. It's happening in New York. It's happening around the country. So we've got a lot of litigation that's going to be going on, but we think ultimately we will win.
Thank you, Michael. Keep up the good work, my friend. And again, that's usjf.net if you want to get a hold of his organization. Thanks for what you're doing, and we'll check back with you soon and see how it's going, okay?
Thanks, Perry.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you, Michael. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at the Deaf TV. Did you know that when you support the Deaf TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
We're back, and one of the movies that really has been a hit, in fact, a home run. It's entitled Home Run, and our own Jerry Bilden earlier had a chance to talk to the executive producer, Carol Mathews, about this movie, so let's join them in their conversation.
With me, I have Carol Mathews, the executive producer of the movie Home Run, and I was excited to be able to talk to you today, Carol. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You are quite welcome. Can you give me a little bit of backdrop? What's the movie about?
The movie is about a Major League Baseball player who is a famous, wealthy, charming, and incredibly talented, and but in the inside he's a mess. And the story is how he winds up being forced to return to his hometown for various reasons, and he begins to do battles with the ghosts that live there.
What do you want people to see in this movie?
Themselves. I want people to see themselves. The movie, if you walk away, the baseball player is an alcoholic, and we learn why he drinks. We learn what he's anesthetizing. We understand that he's in pain, and we really come to love him. But the movie is great because we see a lot of other people and their anesthesia of choice, and it might not look like his alcohol or anger, but it is still an issue for them. And so lots of people go and they see themselves. We have a single mother who is struggling, and we hear her struggle. We have a father-son story. We have a romance. So there's a lot of going.
You know, it's interesting you say that we look at this hero, this star, and he's very likable. It's that people really are drawn to him. And we see that is the case. And coming to mind for me is Josh Hamilton. And people just love him so much, and they want him to succeed. And it's a little different than some of the things that we may think about who these people are, and what kind of personality they may have. It's not the abrasive. It's not the jerk out there. It's oftentimes the people that we love.
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things that I like the most about Home Run is you really get that old thing that our parents taught us when we were kids, you know, don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
I mean, Corey, our main character, looks to have the most charmed life ever, and anyone would want to change places with him. But truly, he has a lot of pain, and no one would want to have experienced that pain. We have one woman that Corey really unleashes on in the movie. It's his sister-in-law. And he sizes her up and says, you've never experienced a hard thing in your life. And then we find out later she's experienced some of the worst this life has to offer. And so sometimes we just size people up, and we think that if we look at them and we can tell what they're wearing or where they live, that we can quickly identify they've had a hard life or an easy life. And it's just not true.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, this is your first feature film. Can you tell us a little bit about a miracle behind this film?
Well, a miracle, I always say, is that I did one at all. And then there are a million miracles on the path to getting it into theaters. There's so many deserving films that sit in the distribution channel and never get seen. And so definitely this has been amazing, just from the fundraising to get the movie done. You know, we started fundraising 3 years ago, and it was horrible economic times at that point. Not that it's much better now, but difficult to get people to imagine investing in something like a feature, and yet the money came quickly and easily from people that really believed in it. And then from here on out, we had delays in our shoot schedule that actually opened up opportunities. So we got a wonderful director like David Boyd, who is the director of one of the directors from Friday Night Lights and Walking Dead. And he's the director of photography on many, many movies we have all seen, including Joyful Noise and Get Low and other movies that are wonderful with big stars. And to get him and to have a beautiful script, it just allowed us to have a beautiful, amazing cast. And everything feels like a miracle when you're sitting where I'm sitting and talking to you.
That's great. There are no coincidences in this, obviously.
Now, lots of God's favor, for sure.
On the surface, it looks like a baseball movie, but it really isn't. It's a movie, obviously, about addiction. How did you come to that?
Prayer. My partner, Tom Newman, said to me, let's do a movie. Let's get one done this year. That was back in 2010. And what proceeded to happen when we just started taking steps was it just got bigger and bigger. But the first thing I did was just pray and asked God, you know, if you were to do a movie, what would you want that message to be? And I'd love to say that I'm that pious and completely given over to prayer. But that was sort of a miracle right there that I did that and asked God first before I started. And what the impression I got was just addiction and recovery and God's heart for people that are trapped. And those are people inside the church as well as outside the church.
In this movie, you're dealing and you're working with Celebrate Recovery, and I have a couple good friends here, one who heads a chapter here that meets at my church, and I've played worship for them. They're an amazing group. How did you choose to work with them?
At my church, we have a Celebrate Recovery, and I knew next to nothing about it, next to nothing. But every now and then on a Sunday morning, someone would get up and tell their story, and I'd hear those stories, and I would always say, that is absolutely God's hand at work. That is not someone who willed it or pulled themselves up by their bootstrap, but that is actually God coming in and transforming a life. So I thought, how wonderful would it be to take those stories and use them to push my baseball character along, instead of having that typical kind of preachy character that comes in and tells the main character, you know, this is what God thinks or this is what God's word says. We actually use those thoughts of people telling their stories to move our character along.
Now, did you have team members that actually went through a 12-step program on this?
Yeah, we did it. Let's see, Tom Newman and I did it. Micah Bernard had gone through Celebrate Recovery as well. And we had 2 of our 4 writers went through Celebrate Recovery, 12-step study. And we did it all in the name of, research. And I just think God laughs at us because certainly he'll let us believe whatever it takes to get us to do what it is he needs to do in our lives. And we were all changed by having gone through the 12 steps. None of us really felt like we needed that. None of us were struggling with chemical addictions. And we got in and saw how much of our life really did get shaped and impressed and transformed from having gone through it. And quite honestly, you're never done. And many of us look forward to going through it again.
All right. And you had cast members who were actual Celebrate Recovery members as well?
No, we had a slew of extras.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Well, they're cast members, yeah.
Yeah, so Celebrate Recovery, the Celebrate Recovery community in Oklahoma, and even some of our neighboring states, people drove in from Arkansas and Texas and came in and were extras for us, and we were so supported. But no, none of our cast members, no.
Did the folks who were Celebrate Recovery members, did they share at all with you during the project?
Well, it was because of Celebrate Recovery members and people that are participating in that program that I think our script is as good as it is. I mean, we had several testimonies in the script, as I mentioned, to kind of move our character along. And every single one of those testimonies are from people that shared their stories with us. So those words that the cast member says, those are actual words from an actual Celebrate Recovery testimony. What
was it like for you personally to work with them?
Well, they're a sordid bunch. No, I'm just kidding. I can say that because they have become like family. Micah Bernard and I have been traveling around the country speaking at Celebrate Recovery one days. Again, Mike and I both went through Celebrate Recovery and feel forever changed for having done so. And so they used to speak that, we're forever family, and we absolutely feel like we are a part of that. John Baker, the founder, was phenomenal, incredibly generous, shared his platform at every opportunity. Getting to know John and his family, his wife Cheryl and his son Johnny, who's also works full-time for Celebrate Recovery, was a great gift to us. And we consider them good friends, and they are God's at work in CR. I believe that God was calling us to do this movie about pain and addiction and recovery and what God wants to do for us. And I thought, I'm going to invite Celebrate Recovery to be a part of it. But now I believe that God is doing something really big with Celebrate Recovery, and he's invited Home Run to be a part of what he's doing there.
Nice. And I think you hit it on the head. What I've seen with them, too, they really are a family. It's very tight. Now, who is your target audience on this movie?
It's a good question. As a marketer, you have to kind of narrow your center of your target. And I would tell you, you vacillate, right? Do you want non-church people to come so that they can hear, the truth about God, or do you want the church people to come? But if I had to choose, I would say the church is the target, because I believe that there's a lot of people in the church today who are struggling with an area of their life, and they feel very stuck. And that could look like a chemical addiction of some kind. It could look like an eating disorder. It could look like rage or lust, or it could look like suffocating grief. But they're struggling, and they feel alone in their struggle. They feel indicted because going to church and having, scriptures and studying the Bible and doing the worship, none of that seems to work. And they feel like that's an indictment on their faith. And this movie's for them, because it says they're not alone, that God still loves them, and he has hope for them, and he has a transformed life waiting for them, and that they are not done. And change is possible. And then for the people outside the church, I would say this movie is for them too, because I think they too are looking for things to help them with their life, but they can't seem to get a hold of this church that says once you come to Jesus, everything's okay. And they don't believe that, right?
Yeah.
And this movie says we came to Jesus, we've given our lives to Jesus, and he's at work in us. And we are a work in progress. We haven't arrived, and we still have issues in our life, but we have a God that we can walk with and garner strength from and experience a transformation with him, with his help. And I think the world wants that and is looking for that.
Boy, I think you said it all there. Carol Mathews, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. The movie is called Home Run. You opened up last week. I hope it comes to our area, and I would encourage everybody to go out and see it, church members or not. And again, Carol, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, Home Run, one of the great movies that are out there. Well, coming up, the big auction is here, and we have the ladies that are responsible for it, and grab your wallet and get ready to go. We'll talk about it next here on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at the Dove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at the Dove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, tomorrow's the big day for the Grace Christian School's annual auction, and I'm delighted to have in the studio with us today Broock Staley. She is the auction coordinator. And also Devin Rickabaugh. She is the interim superintendent there of the schools. And ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
I've been thumbing through this, and I'm going, whoa.
It's pretty good.
You got some great stuff.
We do. We have some amazing things.
Well, listen, it all starts tomorrow. Let's get the details. Tomorrow it's going to be at Cascade.
At the Pavilion.
What time?
Registration starts at 4.
4.
4, and our silent auction runs from 4 to 7. And live auction starts right after that.
All right. And we had your auctioneer on earlier, Randy. He was warming up his vocal cords and getting ready.
You had him practicing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Devin, how big of an event is this? So you've been doing this for quite a while.
Quite a while. It's an annual auction, and it's been as long as I've been there. And it's always a success, bigger and better every year, because we have great parents, tons of parents. You can't do something like that without multiple volunteers that just give their heart and their time and investment to make it come off successful.
Well, this is a must attend, and is it open to the public?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We want
Everybody come. Everybody come. And it's one of the major fundraising events for the school. And how big of participation do you have this year, Brooke? I mean, this thing, I don't know, I was looking for the final number, 360 something? Oh, excuse me, you got more than that.
We actually have an addendum that we are printing this morning. We have almost 450 items, not counting our live auction.
Really?
Yeah.
Everything from, to what?
Everything from coffee baskets to trips. I mean, there's something for everybody.
Okay. And if you've never been there, it's really interesting because you put it all in the gym and you lay all the silent auctions out.
Yeah, the setup is
multiple tables.
Yeah, the setup is just amazing. We have some great volunteers.
Well, one of the neat things about this, not only does it benefit the schools, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but is to watch people bid. You know, I've been hooked on that. I'm watching this number, and I walk around, and I'm watching this number. So if you want to send me your number, I'll get you some really good items. Does it cost anything to register?
No, it's absolutely free.
Okay, so you register, and it's going to be it is one of your big fundraising events. And how is these funds used, Devin?
Well, they benefit our kids. Primarily, the money goes towards our kids. And one of the main events that evening during the live auction is an opportunity for families to invest in kids' lives through our financial assistance. So that's huge. But also, the money goes towards our sports program, which you know we've done quite a good job this year. I have to put a plug out for our teams. And our arts program, our drama, fine arts, our music and band, as well as our technology, keeping our technology always current, which we've been pleased that we've been able to do.
Do you have any scholarship programs for students?
We do have scholarships, we do, and students, our foundation is even at this point creating additional scholarships for our students. We're growing and excited about what the future holds and how God will is making this valley, helping us see that the valley is available to us, and there are Christian families that are looking for other options for their kids, and we want to be available and reach them.
Well, I've watched the schools grow.
Yes, you have.
And explode into what they do today, your sports program being part of it, obviously. But Cascade, I think, is it still the largest Christian high school?
It is, in the state of Oregon.
In the state of Oregon. And
yes.
What about Grace?
And, well, as a preschool through 12, so Grace, Cascade, the entire school system, compared with other K-12 schools. Just almost like a little mini school district.
No question about it, yeah. Well, and let me just say also, Brooke's been responsible for putting this this auction together, and this is no small task. I don't know, 400 and some odd items, trying to keep it all coordinated. How big is your volunteer staff?
We have approximately 150 volunteers for Saturday, not counting all of the volunteers that have helped with setup, baskets. I mean, it's been amazing, amazing. We wouldn't be able to do it without our volunteers.
You got any food?
We are going to have some great food.
And how's that work? You can buy it or what?
Yes, we have dinner is you can purchase. We are serving dinner from 4 to probably 8 o'clock. So this year we extended our dinner through our live auction because we had so many people say we were just bidding the silent auction. We get in for the live auction, and then
have time to eat.
I don't have time to eat. The live auction is getting ready to start. So this year we've decided. I mean, the environment is so casual that there's no reason we can't serve dinner during our live auction.
Sure,
so yeah.
Sure. Well, I just want to encourage people, if you've never attended this, this is a must event. Now, good luck on finding a place to park, but no, we'll bus you in from another county or something, and you can just show up, and it starts at 4 and goes to 7, and then, of course, then the live auction starts at 7 o'clock, and the list of things, can they get one of these in advance, or they get this when they register?
No, they can get one of these in advance. We will have them at both of the schools on campus. I was going to leave a couple here with you, and there's some invitations here with you too, so people want to stop by.
Well, I tell you what, this book, I don't know, can you see that on camera? Yeah, there it is, a picture of it there. This book is wire bound. That's how big it is and how heavy it is, and it's just chock full of things. And I just want to say to the merchants who made this possible, I don't know how you do this without people just falling in love with what you guys do.
Well, and we're grateful for our valley of merchants that give abundantly.
Yeah, we have donations
support
that are being dropped off every hour at the school, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. I mean, we already have a catalog that's in print, so it's hard, but then we have a wonderful print shop even at our school, and they're able to print an addendum so people can see every item that's going to be on the table.
Wow. Well, again, to all of the merchants who made this possible, thank you. This is really something, and you can get a copy of this maybe at one of the schools today over at Grace or over at Cascade, or we'll have a couple here at the Dove if you want to swing on by. But I'll give you an idea what's heads up, because last year when I was there, I started looking through. I actually sat down. I thought, I need to look at what I'm going to go look at.
Absolutely.
And study it. So, what's the big item this year?
Oh, the big item? We have lots of big items.
Well, give me a couple.
We're really excited because we have Civil War tickets for the football for November 29th of this year. And we have a Thomas Kincaid canvas that someone donated this year.
Really?
My in-laws actually donated that.
Oh, okay.
We had a wonderful family donate a half of a grass-fed beef, Angus beef, so someone could invest in, some healthy meat for their family.
And Perry, you're a grandpa, so a great getay to the Great Wolf Lodge up there in the Olympia, Washington area.
Really?
It's pretty fabulous.
Can we do a little interbidding right now?
Interbidding.
We'll just assign Perry the 101 bidder number.
Well, anyway, let me just encourage you folks, both Brooke and Devin and the whole team. You guys do such a wonderful job with the students. We are honored to be partnering with you guys through the broadcast that we do, and it's just a wonderful thing what's happening here with Grace Christian Schools in Southern Oregon. It is a remarkable story, and one that continues to just grow and grow and grow. And Brooke, Just think about this. You can sleep in Sunday. I think your pastor will give you absolution for doing that. But
my husband's really excited for Sunday.
I would imagine he would be. You've been pretty busy. But again, give me the details. It's going to be at the Cascade Christian High School gym.
It's in the gym.
Tomorrow.
Saturday. It's the silent auction is from 4 to 7. As soon as the silent auction closes, our live auction starts. We do have free childcare for infant all the way through 12 years old.
Okay.
And we have Big Air Productions is donating a giant bounce house for our kids.
Oh.
And so, you know, parents can come and their kids
Weather's
can be in a
supposed to be
safe
in the
place.
80s?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
perfect for that. Okay.
A great family.
Great family atmosphere.
It really is.
And the dinner can be purchased there, and
dinner can be purchased for $10 for an adult and $5 for children under 10.
Wow.
Starting at 4 and as late as 8 o'clock. We have another parent volunteer who has taken that task on, and it's a big task to feed 300 people.
Well, there you go. This is just a sample. This is put out by the Black Rock Coffee people, and that is full of cups and mugs and beans. And I don't know what you got back here. Is that Barbie Central? What is that back there?
Disney princesses.
Oh, okay. And so anyway, check it out. It'll be tomorrow. That's Saturday. And be there at 4 o'clock. It all starts at 4, and be a part of it. So, Brooke and Devin, thanks for coming in, and thanks for what you guys do. This is wonderful.
Thank you for having
very
us.
much.
Okay,
We enjoyed
God bless you.
ourselves.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at the Dove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, one of the most fascinating topics in the world is the whole subject of the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. And if you've never been to Israel, perhaps you would have a very difficult time understanding it. Those of us who've been there get a little bit better understanding. But I'm really honored to have with us today Dale Hanson Bourke. She's the author of the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict. She's also president of PDI, which is a marketing and communication strategy firm. And Dale, nice to have you with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, fascinating topic and book to say the least. And can you, in a sentence or two, what is the conflict? I mean, I didn't understand it until I got on the ground there one day and I thought, there is no way these two groups are ever going to get along.
First I should say this is the simplest book anyone will ever read on this topic. I hope we can start there, because I really was very confused as well, and I wanted to break it down to the very, very basic. And to a great degree, it's a land dispute. People who both lay claim to the same land. So that is part of it, but of course that's not all of it. It goes on from there. So that's the beginning. Both groups of people feel that the land is their land.
All right. Let's talk about what is considered the Promised Land.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the issue that I ran into very quickly was all the words you use, or the words that are used by different groups of people, have different meanings. So as Christians, you may use Promised Land because you're looking at a biblical concept of the Promised Land. And that's, certainly from the Old Testament. We've read that time and time again. But different people, again, have different interpretations of what that means. It's the land that was promised to Abraham, and certainly in the Old Testament, but has continued to be in Jewish history believed to be the land of the Israelites, or the Jews.
All right. So the barriers that we're talking about today they're certainly not the same barriers that are described in the scriptures.
You mean the
borders, I should say, the borders, the actual...
The borders. Well, the borders have changed certainly over the years very much. And, depending on what point in time you look at that area of land, right, you'll see different borders. So, yeah, no, those are... It depends on what map you have in the back of your Bible, I'd say.
All right. There's been enormous discussion about a two-state solution. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's possible, but part of the reason that I believe so is, I come to this with, as a Christian, as a believer, that miracles happen, and I think it would probably take something close to a miracle to have that happen at this point. But a two-state solution where the two groups of people would be able to live in peace with security for both sides, I think eventually that is a possibility. I think right now it seems a little bleak, but really there's no other solution in some ways. The Israelis don't want to have a majority population that is not Jewish. They really want a Jewish state. And so to remain democratic and Jewish, Israel really needs to find a way to make that happen, in some ways more than the Palestinians.
So why are they always at war? Why are the Arabs and the Jews always at war?
They haven't always been at war. In fact, they actually used to live fairly peacefully during history together. And, and ironically, during the Crusades, the Christians were pitted against the Muslims and Jews together. So the Muslims and Jews were on one side primarily, and the Christian Crusaders were on the other. Historically, that hasn't been a real issue. It's been something that they've actually been able to live peacefully together. It's really been in the last 100 years when there were large groups of Jews that came in, especially from Eastern Europe, into the land that was at that point British Mandate Palestine, and displaced people who were there, or there was some disputes over who owned the land and that type of thing. So that's when a lot of the the difficulty began.
So, if they both want to coexist and they have history of coexisting, what's stopping this peace process?
Well, I don't think I wish I could tell you exactly, but there are many, many different issues. Certainly, from the Israeli point of view, they want to feel secure. They want to be sure that there's a sense that the security is in place. They withdrew from Gaza, and they still have rockets coming into Israel from Gaza. And so the average Israeli will tell you, look what happened. We left Gaza. We gave them what they wanted, and we still have rockets coming into Israel. So we want security. The Palestinians would say, well, you haven't really withdrawn from Gaza, and we still want the West Bank, and we want to have our own governance. Certainly the military continues to govern in the West Bank. So that's those are the main issues. But there's issues of water, there's issues of, where the borders are, there are the issues of the settlements that are well into the West Bank, but are Israeli occupied by Israelis. So, there are a lot of issues.
Because at one time they were offered the West Bank and they turned it down.
I know. I mean, it's the problem with this kind of thing, and probably all disputes in history, is if you go back to a certain point in time, everybody says, well, wait a minute, could we go back there and take that offer? But that one's passed, and there were reasons why, apparently, that they didn't accept that offer. And leadership hasn't always been great. The Palestinians have suffered from sometimes very poor leadership, and sometimes from not really having their best interests in mind by the other Arab states. So that's been another issue.
Our government has given money to both sides. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's an interesting question. When I first started getting into this, and again, I approached this as an average person just trying to make sense of it. When I first got into it, the thing I had heard was, we give Israel so much money. Why do we give so much money to Israel? And frankly, I didn't even know we were giving Palestinians money, but we are. We give money to the Palestinians primarily to help with their schooling and with their infrastructure. And with Israel, we do give a lot of money to Israel, but it actually goes primarily through U.S. contractors. So as much as we talk about giving money to Israel, it's not like we send aid to Israel. We actually spend a lot of it here in the U.S. through U.S. Contractors who then supply goods and services to Israel.
As you know, the Palestinians sought recognition at the UN. Mm-hmm. And why would that be important to them?
Well, for them, it's two things. One, and again, sometimes this is political, we have President Abbas, who is trying to solidify his position with the Palestinians. So for him to stand up and ask for this recognition on behalf of all Palestinians kind of gives him, I guess it would be recognition that he represents all Palestinians. And the fact is that Hamas is not so sure he represents them, but this gave him the opportunity to do that. But in addition to that, he has said himself that he wants to be able to take Israel to the International Criminal Court. And by having standing with the UN, this gives them the opportunity to do that. So that's
for
part
what?
of it.
What do they want to take them to the International Court for?
Well, they believe that they have that they can take them to court for issues of continuing the occupation, and for other issues that they would, say they feel are valid before the UN. We can go down that road, but I think frankly a lot of it had to do with the politics of President Abbas really wanting to be sure that people saw him as the leader of the Palestinians, and I think he's had, he's been viewed as a bit weak by many of the Palestinians, and certainly has a hard time with Hamas getting behind him. I mean, he does not speak for Hamas, and Hamas just generally does not support what he does.
So, is the conflict really real estate, or is it philosophical, religious, ideological?
I think it's a little bit of all of that. I mean, I think land is certainly the essential part of that. Religion plays a role at some times, but not nearly as much as sometimes people say. The majority of Israelis, as you probably know, are secular. They're not. It's not that they are so tied to their faith. In fact, they are very bothered by the fact that they have a large population of ultra-Orthodox who they consider to be really extreme in their faith. And the Palestinians are, for the most part, pretty moderate Muslims and Christians. So I don't think it's so much about religion. But I do think that the land is something that they have been fighting over for a long time, and it has come to represent far more. Now, the city of Jerusalem probably is more than land. Jerusalem obviously has religious implications for three people. So, three religions, three groups of people. So that is a whole other issue.
Do you think Jerusalem ought to be Palestinian or Israeli?
Again, I'm a person trying to make sense of this, not the person who has the expertise. Yeah. But I would say that I think from what I have seen, to have it as an independently controlled area, so maybe under the UN or under a third party, makes the most sense. And as you know, the Muslim holy sites right now are actually controlled by Jordan. Wow. So, I think that there has to be some compromise there.
All right, I got a scoop, but thank you. It's called the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict, and Dale Hanson Bourke, you want to check it out. It's put out by IVP Books, and check it out at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. Dale, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.